Hello and welcome to the Black Stuff podcast. We're doing our Malaysian Grand Prix review. As always, we are Ben Halls, former motorsport journalist for hereisthecity.com, soon to be and yet to be announced.
And April 29th is when I start. So.
Oh, okay, so that's when you can announce your new gig.
Yeah, it's about boxing though.
We are literally on the edge of our seats.
Yes.
And of course, I am James McGoo, his mate. So
yeah. My bank manager's very excited.
I bet he is. Yeah. Turn those red numbers to black.
Yeah, well, it's not that well paying, but the red numbers might stop getting bigger, and everyone loves that.
Okay, so let's recap the Malaysian Grand Prix. Vettel stunned the world by beating Mercedes. We have a winner that is not Mercedes, and it was not purely on raw pace alone.
I don't know if it was pace, but they just, as a team unit, they did better than Mercedes.
And comfortably as well. I mean, the end gap was it about 12 seconds? 8 seconds.
Made us
over
look like
Lewis
schmucks.
Hamilton. You know, Vettel got ahead, and that's when he's in his element. Hot lapping, basically. He gets out on front with a bit of clean air, and off he goes. That Ferrari is looking very impressive.
Yeah, I think it's mean to say it was just hot lapping, because, I mean, Ferrari went back to basics, and they were like, let's not be in the pits very much, and let's take track position. Because
that was the key decision.
Yeah,
not to
I
get under the
honestly...
safety car.
Yeah, because, I mean, Mercedes, sowed their downfall on Saturday when they used up all their medium tyres, because they thought, no one's going to touch us, we can just run the hards in the race amongst ourselves, and, take home another comfortable 1-2.
And it was that arrogance that they've built from the season that they've just had. They just assumed they could actually be a little bit flippant with their use of their tyres and still comfortably win. Not the case in Malaysia.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair... Show me the person who saw this coming.
No chance. I was looking at the odds before the race, and someone, I think actually one of the Sky Bet, like Johnny Herbert tips, was Vettel to win the race, and I was like, no chance. Yeah. Absolutely no chance. And the odds were extraordinary.
Nobody saw a Ferrari win coming, and Toto Wolff hasn't, said, oh yeah, we got cocky, but he knows
they got cocky.
He has said that, this has given us a bit of a kick up the bum. Not in those exact words. Toto Wolff wouldn't say the word bum. I'd love to hear him say the word bum.
Bum.
This has given us a kick up the bum. I like my wife's bum.
I bet he does. That's Susie Wolff.
Yes.
Let's ignore that.
Yes. I don't know why I said that. I just wanted to say bum.
You've gone off the rails there.
Oh, it's been a long day.
Yeah.
I hate the M25.
But extraordinary victory for Sebastian Vettel, and oh my god, it's so pleasing to see someone else win a race other than Mercedes, to have an actual fight on.
God. Oh, not even to see someone who isn't Lewis Hamilton win a race on pace.
Pretty much, because Rosberg, again, he kind of...
he had a mare. He's shot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about him later.
We'll come back to Nico Rosberg. Let's stick with Vettel for now. Blue flag, blue flag.
Blue flag, blue flag,
He was
blue
back
flag.
doing what he loves, which is leading the pack.
Yeah,
and I think it was an extraordinary drive from Sebastian Vettel. Can we give him? Is it too early to give him the respect he deserves now? Can we admit we were wrong about him?
No, but one performance doesn't equal, a legacy.
No, it doesn't.
He's had a phenomenal start to his Ferrari career. He's done a phenomenal job of, rehabilitating his reputation.
They love him as well, Ferrari.
Oh, yeah.
He's already won them over.
Yeah, he's won. Yeah, but Ferrari's like that. I mean, Jacques Villeneuve, when he goes to Italy, he's still treated like a member of the family just because Gilles Villeneuve.
They do adopt pretty quickly, it has to be said.
I think I want to see Raikkonen up there and not have a nightmare race. Yeah. He's had 2 mares in a row now. Because Vettel was quick, but looking at practice, I reckon Raikkonen could have beaten Vettel.
Yeah, but he suffered from his qualifying. Again, we said... Last time out, we said Kimi Räikkönen does not set up a car for qualifying, and I can't remember exactly what the problem was. Was it rain in the qualifying that got him stuck down in 11th place?
I think he got caught in a bit of rain, got caught behind someone.
I tell you what it was. They came out for Q2, I think, and it started raining at the end of the first lap, and he didn't get out of the traffic.
Yeah, it was just a minor thing. But the thing with Räikkönen, I mean, how far behind...
he was 53 seconds behind the leader.
All right, he was 50
at the end of the race.
I know you can't.
So 40 seconds behind Rosberg.
Yeah, and I know you can't.
And that's with the tyre blowout.
Yeah,
and
I was going
pit stop.
I was going to say, Nah. I know you can't. This isn't an exact science, but that tire went at the first corner.
About 5 meters after the pit entry.
I know, and I bet you could just feel his soul start to weep a little.
Yeah.
But that would have cost him at least a minute.
Going around the entire track on 3 wheels.
An entire lap a minute.
To destroy the car.
Yeah, 25 seconds in the pits. That's at least a minute, and he finished less than a minute behind Vettel. I want to see Raikkonen.
I want to see him in good air with Vettel, because part of me is that I just want to see Kimi do well again, but also I don't think it's too far a stretch to say that he's got the pace.
Oh God, no! He's come back. He likes this car. He's making good noises.
To lose a minute and a half and still finish fourth would be an extraordinary drive normally by anyone.
If Vettel wasn't getting the headlines...
Only overshadowed by Vettel.
Yeah, if Vettel wasn't getting the headlines, this would be one of those, phenomenal comeback drives everyone talks about.
And hopefully with a good car under him, Kimi he'll find a new passion for the sport, because, as we said before, last year he didn't really look interested.
Yeah, I mean, if you go out knowing you can't do anything, you just go through the motions, but he looks invigorated and... to go back to Vettel, he's had a great start to the year, and he needs to beat the person in the same machinery. Everyone needs to beat the person in the same machinery to prove they're better than them, but he hasn't been doing it because Kimi's been hit from behind on the rear tyres twice.
Yeah,
so,
was it Ericsson on the first? Was it the first lap he got? No, the first lap he got tagged by someone, but
to be fair, in Australia,
minor contact, and then when he actually. It was Ericsson in the end that punctured the tyre, wasn't it?
What, this time round?
Yes.
No, it was NASA.
I thought it was NASA It was NASA in Australia. And it was Ericsson this time round. It was definitely a Sauber either way.
Yeah, either way, if he sees a Sauber, he needs to start going...
Yes, he needs
getting
to start
out of here.
Immediately.
Yes. Just run away.
But...
Yeah.
It's good to be seeing Ferrari winning races again, and it's also great to be seeing that we're not just gonna see the two Mercedes battle out themselves. If either one of them makes a mistake, then Ferrari look like they'll be right up where they're with them. And on this occasion, they beat them pretty fair and square, I would say, on the balance of strategy and speed.
Yeah, Ferrari did the brave. Don't forget, all of this year is still the groundwork put in place by Alonso, Dominicali, and Montezola,
and James Allison, of course.
Well, yeah, but he's still there. Because, in the same way that you can't look at Mercedes' current success without paying tribute to, Ross Brawn and Norbert Haig.
Yeah.
You can't look at Ferrari's success. The groundwork was laid by the people they fired. But that decision to lay off the big three, the star driver, the company man, team principal, and the president, and then come in with fresh bodies, it's looking good. I'm really excited for China.
Oh, absolutely. I love China anyway, as
that turn
as far
13.
as that race go. Yeah, that's an incredible turn. But what was exciting for me to see as well is off the line. It looked like Rosberg was getting a little bit of a run on Vettel, but then the engine it never really gave him that last bit. It didn't look like it has done for so long now that the Mercedes has way more power. There really didn't look to be a great deal of difference between those two engines, which is fantastic.
Yeah, but going into the first corner, I think the problem there could have been the soft, squishy bit behind the wheel with Rosberg. He's just bereft at the minute.
Yeah, we'll come back to Nico. Let's talk about. Let's go with McLaren. They showed a huge improvement from Australia.
Yeah. And they're going to use those engines in China.
The same ones.
Same ones.
Wow.
That's
a very different story.
Big step for them.
Now, despite that, despite that, neither of them finished the race.
No, but they ran on full pelt for a bit. So.
Yeah, and they were a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Still not that quick, but a lot quicker.
No, and they all seem very positive. Jensen Button put an adorable picture of a goat trying to climb up a vertical cliff as an analogy on social media. And, to be fair, Alonso's mentalities rings true that you can't beat Mercedes in a Mercedes customer team. Ferrari, he had to, he wasn't happy at.
Don't tell that to Toro Rosso, right? Or Red Bull.
Well, no,
I guess they have the same engine supplies. It's not quite the same. But I did like halfway through the race, Jensen Button's radio message of, "Oh, I'm quite surprised, guys. We seem to be catching up to cars." Only to be rebutted, by his own team. Basically saying, yes, they're being held up by Hulkenberg.
Yes, it's like, they're there, Jensen. We'll put the arches back on for you.
Just toot around, continue our pre-season testing, please.
We've got an armchair ready.
We might turn up around Spa.
Nice pipe. Yeah, but no, they're working hard. They're staying positive. You've not got that combative nature like you got between Renault and Red Bull. You know, they're very much, they're all in this together. They're all working to the goal. You know.
Wait, we've completely forgotten they're powered by Honda now and not Mercedes.
No, I knew they were powered by Honda.
Okay, I'd had a brain fart there.
Yeah, because Alonso won't win in a Mercedes customer team. He won't win. He couldn't stay at Ferrari. Red Bull wouldn't have him. This was his only option. And looks willing to not be the disruptive person he has been.
Yeah, I see the point you were making there now.
Yes.
Yeah, no, very promising for McLaren. Let's see if they can make similar steps towards
finishing.
Yeah, finishing in China. I mean, if they finish on a full power engine, that's got to be a big win for them, surely.
I mean, getting finished. I think the next gap is don't get lapped.
Yeah,
that's their next big target.
So we'll go further down the grid because it was starting to look more like a normal sort of Formula One race from last year. The two Williams playing second fiddle this time to Ferrari. Bottas finishing ahead of Massa as he always does. Massa didn't do too bad this weekend. But I was very impressed with Max Verstappen finishing 7th, actually finally getting those points that he deserved to get in Australia. Yeah. It was a really impressive drive by him. Getting the better of Carlos Sainz this time around.
Yeah, what impressed me the most was you could see him like learning in real time.
It is. You can see him leveling up.
Yeah.
As he continues his Formula One Grand Prix.
Yeah, because like first lap he had that slightly ambitious look down the inside of Ericsson, of the first of many of Ericsson's whoopsies that day. Yeah, all the ones he crammed in.
We'll get on to Ericsson.
But and he went up the inside, clattered wheel to wheel, and it looked a bit clumsy. And by the end of the race, he overtook Sainz by just being quicker than Sainz, and then being like, "Oh, if I don't move out, I'm going to hit him."
Yeah, there was actually a radio message halfway through the race where they were out asking Verstappen to let Sainz through, but I mean maybe he learned a little bit from his line or whatever driving behind him, and then his talent took him faster than Sainz, but he had him beaten at the end.
Yeah, Sainz.
That does happen though sometimes. I think sometimes if you're following someone quite closely, they'll be able to build upon their own speed by just learning from what the driver in front is doing. Yeah,
and I mean, they were lucky they were in an isolated battle. Verstappen could sit behind him, not burn up his tyres, see where he'd be quicker, and, nicely made his move.
Yeah, big things ahead of Verstappen, I hope.
Yeah, I just hope nothing derails him. I just wish he had a better teammate than Carlos Sainz.
Well, that seems a little unfair at this point. I mean, I know that he hasn't really achieved anything until now, but you don't really know how they're going to perform in Formula One. It's always kind of an unknown quantity, so he may still surprise us.
They only keep him around because they need his dad on contract, and I stand by that. He's not good enough.
Okay. Well, let's... I don't want to talk about Red Bull just yet, because we're going to have to do a little section on Red Bull, so let's finish up with Ericsson.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah. The guy just... He outbreaks himself so often. He did it twice at least in Australia. I don't know if one of them was in... qualifying ones in the race, but he went off at the same corner at the end of the long straight, and he did it again in this race and beached the car, and he did it in turn 1 where he has there's such a large margin for error there to outbrake yourself, and he threw it all the way into the gravel over the runoff area.
Yeah,
I'm not impressed, Marcus. Do better.
I mean,
pay attention. Maybe he was just tootling around. He forgot to brake.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you're I've outbraked. Oh wait, they brake pretty late.
He was concentrating on the car in front rather than his braking zone.
Yeah,
but he needs to learn from that, and quickly.
I mean, Marcus Ericsson's got more of the pay driver than a good driver who also pays about him. But it comes down to will he be out the car? No, there are 17 million reasons why he won't be out the car kind of equation with him. There's a reason why he wasn't out for... Oh, we don't have the researcher. Who did Sauber run in? Marciello, who they ran in FP1. There's a reason probably why Ericsson wasn't out the car.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not that great, but Nasser's a real talent.
And you know what? If it pays Sauber's way to actually getting a great car, then when them...
If it pays one of Sauber's 14 drivers... Hey, speaking of, do you see Lotus got another reserve driver?
Really?
Yeah. It was a no-name Asian driver who won't actually get near a car and just goes to events wearing Lotus
Lorraine
logos.
Carter-Kane?
No.
Oh, he's given up on it now.
Oh, he's given up. He's oh god, I've forgotten he existed. That was a blissful moment. Yeah. I just sprung to my head that Lotus are taking money off anyone to be a reserve driver these days.
Yeah.
I could probably do it.
I think if we go on to if we go on to Red Bull next, because Red Bull 9th and 10th behind both Toro Rossos. What is going on there? The Red Bull car is not up to its usual standard.
They've come out this week and said the chassis might be a bit of the issue too, to which everyone's gone doi.
They've got the same engines as Toro Rosso, and they've been well beaten behind those two drivers. And I would like to think that Daniel Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat could beat Verstappen and Sainz in an outright race. So it has to be the car, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
I can't imagine Ricciardo is. I mean, he's lost to Daniel Kvyat. I'm not entirely. I can't remember exactly why that was. But
Kvyat's not bad.
No, I'm not saying Kvyat's bad. Ricciardo was on fire last year, and he really did show that he is a very good driver. So it has to be down to the drivability of that Red Bull.
Yeah, and I haven't seen front brakes go like that since HRT at Canada. No, seriously, HRT knew they could. Like their front brakes were overheating. Like there's nothing they could do. They started the race, and their ethos that day was, well, we're going to go until they hit the danger zone, and then we'll stop.
The sad thing is with Red Bull is that the worse they do, the more close they will come to just coming out of F1.
Yeah.
And they're not doing well at all at the moment, and that doesn't look really to be improving. They've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
A lot of work to do.
I mean, Renault and Red Bull this week, I didn't put this in the script, I'm going to blindside you here, they announced a truce.
Did they?
Yeah, they've pretty much said, we're in this boat together. Let's try and get there. I think Red Bull might be rapidly realizing they got no other option.
No.
So they need to start, slipping Renault a digit here and there.
Well, that's diplomacy for you.
Yes.
When you've got no cards left to play, they have to start playing ball. But.
Anyway, playing with.
Let's talk about Force India.
Well, no, but also just one other thing. Because this might be what caused the truce. Renault's exit strategy because they've invested all this money in a new engine. They're not leaving F1.
No.
But Renault's exit strategy is to buy Toro Rosso, because they were sniffing around Force India beginning of the year. They're now sniffing around Toro Rosso, and Toro Rosso said they might make their livery more yellow to
Which at this point, the stock of Toro Rosso is going to be skyrocketing at the moment.
They might bring out some more yellow branding to big up Renault's presence on the team, give Renault some more advertising.
Yeah.
Red Bull need to eat a slice of humble pie.
They do. They need, because they have not. They haven't got the swagger anymore to hold up their whinging and their moaning.
No,
and frankly, no one's listening anymore. No,
and you've also got to start to look at if they haven't, clawed back to at least above Toro Rosso, but near, say,
they need to be challenging Williams at the very least.
Yeah, if they're not challenging Williams by mid-season, then you need to look at how we're going to overhaul this team for next year.
Yeah.
Because it does work. Mercedes got rid of Hagen Braun, and they're reaping the benefits. Ferrari got rid of, Dominicali, Alonso, I always want to call him Montezemolo. De Montezemolo. And they're reaping the benefits. And you've got to start to look and go, well, is it time to, if Newey's already going and Vettel's gone, how many other senior figures around that team do you want to get rid of to breathe some fresh life into?
Yeah, because they've got two good drivers there. They need to pull their socks up.
They've got the facilities and the drivers, but there's something in-house which is holding them back. And I don't think the Renault is the problem. I think the engine is a symptom. Because look at how they're treating Renault. They said after the race that we've already changed our brake suppliers. Whoever supplied those brakes, they're just going to... Because there's two makers, there's Brembo and someone else. And so whichever one gave them those brakes, they're going to switch for the next race to the other supplier.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the other brake supplier.
I can't.
One of them was supposed to be a little sort of spongy, and one of them was much more of a sharper force.
Yeah, actually, if you'll allow me a little pontification.
Oh, go on then.
This if you look at how they're running, I'm going to draw a comparison between like Google and Microsoft here, because Google are known for innovation. They've got that like Google X division where they're like, who cares if you fail? To nick one of your sayings.
Shit.
What?
That's the thing of X division for Google is just make something cool.
Yeah, it's if you aim for the stars,
you may hit the moon.
That's their thing. Whereas Microsoft under Steve Ballmer had this like decimation policy, where the bottom 10% were fired, the top 10% were promoted.
And that stifles creativity.
Yeah, and if you look...
that stifles creativity in any organisation.
Yeah, and if you look at how, they've treated their brake suppliers, they've treated Renault, how they cut young drivers just like that, you maybe need to look and think, is this hyper-competitivity leading to, like... They've basically forced Adrian Newey out. At this point, they say, "Oh, it's the regulations," but they haven't even given him scope in house to be creative and help out.
No, and that kind of actually that is consistent with this moaning of about Red Bull that we had after Australia. This kind of scapegoating mentality where they want to blame someone else.
I think Red Bull, and I don't think Christian Horner's smart enough to know. I don't think this is him. I think this is coming from. The bods are the money men, like Schmitz and Red Bull Central and Dr. Marco and all that. And I think Red Bull their failure might be through conservatism and through this inability to experiment. 'Cause in the past, I mean, don't forget, they've brought us, blowing the rear floor. They've revolutionized the front wing.
Genuine innovation.
And at the minute... They're just flailing about, falling short, blaming everyone. But maybe they need to look in the mirror. That's my rant over.
Okay, right. Well, let's go back to the race. There were 2 driver penalties for Force India.
Yes.
You had Sergio Perez's, frankly ridiculous cut on Roman Grosjean, I think it was. Well,
Grosjean was going round the outside of him.
Yeah, that was a certain penalty. Also, what I thought was a lot harsher was Hülkenberg's penalty for hitting either Kvyat or Ricciardo. I can't remember. I think it was Kvyat.
It's Kvyat, although the replays kept showing Ricciardo.
But it was... I don't see where he was at fault there. I mean, as far as I can remember what was going on, Kvyat and Ricciardo were fighting it out. Yeah, Hülkenberg snatched an opportunity and got his car on the inside.
Well, no, Hülkenberg he was ahead of them, and he ran wide into turn 1, and the radio message had gone through to let Kvyat through. So Kvyat went through. Hülkenberg was in a bit of no man's land. Kvyat tried to, wangle round.
Perhaps didn't realise he was there and cut across him. But why did Hülkenberg get the penalty?
No idea.
When he cut across him, he was in the side of the car.
Yeah, that was Kvyat.
He turned into him, frankly. Like, whether it was... I mean, I don't think it was deliberate. I think he just didn't... He was too busy looking at Ricciardo to remember that he was there. But he turned straight across him. There was nothing he could have done. If he broke in, he would have just popped the tyre anyway with his wing. Yeah, that was Kvyat.
That was a lack of spatial awareness. That's the kind of thing that, don't forget, these guys haven't raced wheel to wheel apart. He didn't even race in Australia. Kvyat hasn't raced wheel to wheel since Abu Dhabi last year.
Yeah.
That is the kind of rusty move you pull, because he had the place, but it wasn't even Hülkenberg driving into a wedge. Kvyat made the wedge.
Yeah.
And at best, I mean, I see that, and Kvyat had all the room on the outside in the world, but he tried to take the racing line, oblivious to the fact that, Hülkenberg had nowhere to go, and caused it. That's Kvyat's fault. His punishment was being punted off the track, and yet they gave Hülkenberg the penalty. And this goes against what they said end of last year, which is just to the stewards... Don't give penalties, because how do you expect these guys to race each other if you're going to penalise every bit of contact?
Yeah, just before you went on that tangent, I was going to say I have a very sad confession to make, which was that I agreed with Eddie Jordan post-race.
Oh, no.
I know, I feel so dirty saying it, but basically he said, you can't just penalize everything for everyone for everything, because you'll stifle the racing.
Yeah.
People will not make moves if they think that even if they get a touch, then it's a sure thing penalty. You want to see these guys compete.
Yeah, I think when Nigel Mansell stewards, he's
Let's
a
never
bit
mention
too
Eddie
liberal.
Jordan again. I know we will, but
Eddie
Jordan.
I don't like Eddie Jordan.
Anywho.
Anyway, no, but when Nigel Mansell stewards, I think he's a bit liberal, because do you remember in, I want to say 2010,
right,
at Silverstone, the last corner when where basically Hamilton got very aggressive with the side of Massa's Ferrari.
Yes.
But Mansell said no, it was alongside it. It was a racing incident. It's like, well, no, Hamilton kind of nudged him out of the way there, mate. Like, that to me is a bit too liberal on the... Like, in tin top racing, yeah, but in single seaters, that's too much. But unless it's, front quarter to rear quarter like you had with Perez and Grosjean, I don't understand how you can hand out these penalties.
No, I don't think it's really... I don't think the line is that blurred either. I mean, most people have a fairly consistent opinion and common opinion when it comes to drivers' penalties.
Yeah.
There may be some which split common opinion, but more often than not, people will say, "Oh no, that was a penalty," or it obviously it's different when someone's a fan of another person. They're always going to fight their corner, but to the neutral eye, it's not that difficult to tell what's a racing incident and what's worthy of a driver's penalty.
I think where it gets dodgy, and this is the only real grey area for me, is when you get kind of like the front wheel alongside the side pod going into a corner, because then you can say, oh, he left his car up the inside and punted the other person off, or you can say he got his car up the inside, you can't just cut across him. I think that's where it gets a bit grey area-ish, but cars tripping over each other trying to go 3 abreast into a corner, you want to encourage cars going 3 abreast into a corner.
You certainly shouldn't be penalising them.
It's stupid. Yeah. Maldonado's now got 8 points on his licence.
Maldonado? What, a super licence?
Yeah, you need 12 to get it suspended. But he's losing 3 before China, so he's not going to get suspended anytime soon.
By the way, 2 for 2 pasta. Very nice work. Let's carry that on. Carry on the streak.
The streak lives. Forget The Undertaker at WrestleMania. It's Pasta Maldonado
and his DNFs.
God, I love that guy. Thing is, I genuinely think that when he's not self-destructing, he's a great driver.
Oh, yeah.
But he's just got this self-destructive...
I think he showed that at Monaco. I mean, he always does well at Monaco. He's always quick at Monaco.
Do you know he was banned there for driving for life until someone paid the Monaco marshal that he hit racing under a yellow flag a significant amount of money.
I mean,
that's not even libel. That's true.
That doesn't surprise me. Not even slight.
I want to say in 2006 he was 5. He was banned for life from racing at Monaco by the Monaco Automobile Club, whatever it's called. I can't remember.
Automobile Club. I'm sure it's not that.
By the Monaco Driving Association of very rich cars.
Yes. Very, very rich cars.
Yes.
I did actually want to talk about Nico Rosberg. We kind of jumped back to Mercedes a little bit, but
I write these scripts for a reason, McGowan, and you go fucking everywhere.
Yeah, well, anywho's. I mean, Nico Rosberg, he sucked. Let's be honest. He sucked this race. He never looked in control. He never looked competitive. And he doesn't look like even close to challenging Hamilton. So that's what made Sebastian Vettel's victory all the more sweeter, was because we need someone to challenge Hamilton, or he will just run away with it. There's no competition there from the moment at Rosberg.
Rosberg is shot. Like, I don't...
You calling it? This early, you're calling it? You shot?
No, I don't think that he's not got the tools to win.
Do you think it's something to do with the team radio rules now? Do you think he actually benefited a lot more from the information he was getting from his pit wall?
I mean, to an extent, but I think that's easy to it's the same way it's easy to blame Red Bull's downfall on Renault. It's easy to blame Rosberg's downfall on the lack of info from the pit wall. Because also, don't forget, guys like Schumacher, Prost, Lauda, they could tell what was going on around the track. And for all of the, you can't give him information and so, drivers watch the pit board, like the big TV screens as they go around.
Well, I know Vettel admitted to doing that on his
Vettel
Top
does
Gear
it.
interview.
Schumacher, they all do it.
Top
Like, if you're
Gear,
going
which is
down
no
a
more,
straight
by
and
the
there's a
way.
TV screen, you watch it, see what's going on behind you or in front of you. I think Rosberg's mentally shot. I don't think he's recovered from last year. I think I said this last week that...
It is sad when you see him smiling at third place on the podium. He looks like he's kind of conceded a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to believe for a second that he's conceded the title already, but he did seem to concede that race pretty handily.
He clearly... I mean, he's in a good car. He's close on pace. He's within a couple of tenths of Hamilton.
But his race pace is much worse.
Yeah, I mean, that was always the case last year, though.
And it if you look at the start, going into the first corner, that's the difference.
He wimped out.
He did wimp out. He absolutely wimped out. Maybe it's because he's only used to racing Hamilton for the whole of last year. He's used to people defending much more aggressively than maybe Vettel would have done.
Yeah, but then you look him on the podium, Vettel looked absolutely knackered. He just had to sit down. Hamilton had to sit down next to him. Rosberg was stood up, energetic, barely sweating, was like, yeah, let's go. I can do this. He was like on the ball. And I just wish... He's got the car. He's got the fitness.
He needs to go watch a Rocky movie or something. He needs to get some inspiration and some motivation and start trying to win.
He needs a sports psychologist. Because when you go back to what he said, like, if Vettel overtakes me, is it over? That was on like lap 25 or 30. It's like, well, halfway through the race, Nico, mate. Like, you can do stuff.
Yeah.
But I think he's got that as soon as they're past me, I can't catch him. And I think this has been brewing for a while. Like in Russia when he ruined his whole race flying down at the first corner, the outside of Hamilton. That was Russia last year. Do you remember?
Yeah, I know. I remember that.
And
There's a massive bald spot he got on his tyre.
Yeah, and he pitted early, then did the
whole
rest
of the race. But then
did
the whole race on the primes,
Yeah.
which was that race sucked. Let's not go on about that race.
Mate, GP2 was good. I'm worried that he's lost some self-belief.
He needs to find some fire back.
Yeah.
And fast, because I'm not going to watch him just become Felipe Massa.
But we said this last week. Was 2014 for Rosberg like Webber's 2010 or Massa's 2007?
His one good shot at it, you mean?
Was it his one shot or
Because Rosberg started last year well. And maybe he built from that. Maybe he feels like he's fighting a losing battle and he just got a bit of a handicap start last year.
Maybe, 'cause Hamilton did have all of his technical issues front-loaded. Or most of them at least. But, Rosberg... You get this sense of desperation from Rosberg.
I wouldn't say it's desperation. I would say it is just concedence. It's
like this desperate concedence, like shouting at a brick wall, like kind of like the drunk guy who's thrown out of the club and is shouting at the closed door in front of him. Because you saw it like Abu Dhabi last year, pleading with the engineers to try and find something in his car. You had him today pleading, I don't understand what's going on in the race around me.
Yeah, the Mercedes engineers must be getting pretty bored of their drivers whinging over the radio when they've built them such an incredible car.
Oh, Hamilton,
don't talk to me in the corners, man. Everything's man with him nowadays.
Yeah, I know I can't talk about this, but he's starting to sound very American. I mean, I at least lived there for a few years, so
I assault you physically for saying words like trunk, but good grief, Hamilton. I mean,
but
shut up.
It is petulance because like
absolute.
Well, now Paddy's saying I might pit again. It's like, no, that was just chattered, Lewis. Like, sit down, be quiet.
Writing his own column. I'm not going to go on for a full thing on ranting on Lewis Hamilton, but no one cares for your whinging, Lewis. You've got the best car on the grid.
And you've got probably the second most talent on the grid, because you've still got to go a long way to convince me Alonso is not the best of this generation.
Yes, but hopefully we'll see some of that towards the end of the season.
I love Lewis Hamilton until he talks.
Yeah, I love seeing him race. I can't stand it when I hear him talk.
He's phenomenal behind the wheel. And he's brave and ballsy, and then he opens his mouth, and it's just like, oh, you pillar.
It is disingenuous, really, isn't it?
He's an awful person in my eyes. Not an awful person, but he's just not. That's just.
We're gonna lose a lot of people here. Maybe like up to 5 or 6 of the 20 people that may listen to it.
Yes. Anyway,
I am happy though that we now have Ferrari versus Mercedes battle.
I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it looks likely.
Well, I mean, it's gonna go track to track as it always does.
Yeah, but a battle implies there'll be, it'll be like McLaren Ferrari from 10 years ago. Yeah,
of course, if there's a botched pit stop or something like that, they're at least they look as though they might be close enough that a botched pit stop will lose Mercedes the race, which is a far cry from last year where they sometimes probably could have pitted once or twice more.
Yeah,
and still win quite comfortably. They drove within themselves. Now they have to step up their game.
No, it's great. And I mean, Ferrari deserve it, because everyone likes to see Ferrari do well. Not too well, but to do too well. And Arriva Bernie apparently got, after the win, he apparently got a text from Schumacher's family. And he didn't, I mean, he was being respectful. He didn't, at least haven't read what...
Who was this? Sorry, Maurizio?
The new Ferrari team principal.
Oh, Maurizio.
You know that really handsome older grey fox guy?
Oh, yeah, Salt and Pepper guy.
Salt and Pepper guy. Like,
yeah, no, I know who you mean.
You thought, like, David Ginola had the Salt and Pepper sportsman look down? Nah, this dude. But,
Oh, so Italian.
Yeah. Oh, God, you can just see him with, like, a cigarette and an espresso, can't you?
Yeah.
Going, Bella. But he, apparently, he was, like Vettel's podium in Australia meant a lot. James Allison, when Ted Kravitz got him walk into the podium celebration, he was bouncing. He was like, finally, we're getting somewhere.
Finally.
And yeah, and then after the race, Arriva Benny kept trying to keep everyone grounded. Like, this doesn't mean we've made it. Then apparently he picked up a text message from Schumacher's family and just broke down. Like, he just absolutely lost his composure and just, as you can imagine.
Yeah, that is nice to see though.
Yeah. And it's actually nice to see that this goes back to the Ferrari family mentality in the same way that Jacques Villeneuve's considered a member of the family, even though he actively fought against Ferrari for so long. Because Vettel said that he wanted to talk to Michael about going to Ferrari, but he couldn't, so he talked to Michael's old manager, and I think he might have spoken to Schumacher's wife a bit, and Schumacher's family reaching out, and it's really great to see.
Excellent.
Anyway,
sticking with Italy, we had some news on Monza this week.
Ivan Capelli, that well-known racing stalwart.
I didn't want to sound too stupid by saying who is that, but fuck it, who is that?
He was an Italian F1 racer from like the late 80s, early 90s.
Right, well, only you would know that, and a handful of people listening.
He did not. It was the era where if you look at like the results page, 8 out of every 10 races just retired because the engines blew up.
Yeah,
it's from kind of that era.
Okay,
but he had a couple of big crashes, got him some headlines, had a few good drives. He was all right, but he's taken over I think Monza comes under the Milan Automobile Club. And shut up, I think it's actually called that. Before you give me more shit for saying Automobile Club.
I was on the tip of my tongue.
Oh. You're used to Italians on the tip of your tongue, I don't know. But he's taken over and he's trying to not do such a drastic overhaul that like Silverstone did, but he's trying to secure Monza until at least 2020.
That's good news because I love Monza.
Every
year
Monza.
I look forward to watching Monza. Let's be honest. The Spa Monza duet of races is the best on the calendar.
It's like Spa Monza Singapore. Isn't it?
Is it Singapore? Is it always Singapore? I know Spa and Monza are always together.
Yeah,
and they're great races to watch.
Do you know what I miss when Catalonia and Monaco were back to back?
I've never liked Catalonia.
No, but having those two races back to back was always...
Getting those two out of the way? I mean, I'm not really a big fan of the Monaco Grand Prix, if I'm being completely honest.
No, but it's such a great week, because you've got, like, the Spanish Grand Prix weekend, and then they get everything to Monaco, and then, because practice is on Thursday...
Yeah.
So then you've got, like, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the Sunday of the Monaco Grand Prix is Motorsport Christmas, which is the Monaco Grand Prix, Indy 500, Coca-Cola 600. I'm going to be talking about that and like the Monaco Grand Prix one, so you got to start to tolerate ovals.
That's fine. I'll go make myself a coffee or something like that.
You just leave me here, like...
I'll tell you what I'd like to bring back from our last podcast is, can we have a story from Bernie?
A story from Bernie?
Yes.
I thought we cut that.
No. We kept that in there.
What story from Bernie did I tell last week?
I can't remember, but it's definitely still in the podcast. This week he's been going on about women.
Oh yeah, but that's just Bernie. My favourite, like a good example of the kind of stuff that Bernie pulls was over, I think, the 2009 Concord Agreement that like got the sport in a tizzy.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, I didn't do the jingle. And now it's time for a story from Bernie.
Oh, so it was around that one where all the sport was in a tizzy.
Yeah.
And he bet Ron Dennis that a contract wouldn't be signed. That he was like, Ron, I bet you, £250,000 this will be signed today. And Ron was like, I bet you it won't. And Bernie just signed it. Went, there you go, you want me £250,000. And he was like, that's not what I meant. It's like, what? You bet it wouldn't be? It's signed. And he did it again. I want to say this was with Jochen Rindt, but it might have been with Nelson Piquet. But I think it's Jochen Rindt at a pool in Monaco. And whichever driver it was, I genuinely can't remember, super fit, jumped in the pool, did like 2-3 lengths underwater and like popped out.
Yeah.
And Bernie said, I can do more than that. And he was like, and he'd like bet some money. And Bernie just got a snorkel and did it. And they were like, Bernie, that's not what we meant. He was like, what? I did more lengths underwater than you.
Oh, I remember the story you were telling me now. It was the guy who he pushed into the swimming pool.
They might have been...
Oh, actually, no, I'm not sure. We'll leave that one for another day, though. We'll have to keep you titillated.
Anyway, yeah. Bernie
this week has been going on about women in F1.
He doesn't understand diversity.
He doesn't understand... well, he does understand misogyny, though.
Yeah. Like, women need to be better represented in... Well, all motorsport.
Yeah, we said this before in our first. We'd love to see a woman in F1 succeed, but no woman. Wow, I would imagine no woman wants to see a woman on the grid and do poorly. You want to see one. You want to see
someone
get somewhere on talent, and unfortunately, at the moment, there's not enough in the talent pool to. At least for the team principals to decide who wants to drive.
Simona Di Silvestre ran out of money, I think, with her Sauber adventure.
That's sad because I was kind of hoping she would suddenly turf up in the seat.
But it's getting harder because Williams even brought in Adrian Sutil to go above Susie Wolff in who'd get a race seat if. Again, Carmen Jorda. Even I'm not going to have a go this week.
No, but.
And then, who else have you got? I think the big missed opportunity was bringing Danica Patrick to F1.
You really think she would have done well?
No, but I think she was at least inspired some people who could do well. Because I wrote about this in for Here of the City when Susie Wolff got to test at Silverstone in Germany.
She wasn't that far off Massa's pace. I don't know if they marketed her a little bit. Let's say.
Yeah, I mean it's.
With the car setup and the fuel, but I don't know. Like that's just it's a possibility. Yeah. I wouldn't put it beyond them. But she wasn't far off Felipe Massa in the testing times.
Yeah, but she's just not. She's not the complete package. I think is always the slant against Susie Wolff.
I think we'll definitely get a women driver at some point because at some point someone will throw enough money behind a female driver to to actually get a seat. Even if it's a paid seat for a lower team or something like that, we'll see a female driver.
Yeah, compete. But that's important because you need that role model. You need that person to
drive the next generation.
Yeah, as lame and as motivational and as this would look good on as a quote over a picture on Tumblr. Kind of as lame as this sounds.
You do need the inspiration.
You need that person to show, hey, you can do this.
Yeah.
And for every young girl who feels weird asking to go go-karting with her brother, or for every girl who thinks I can't be a driver.
Because that's really all it is at the moment. Yeah. It's a numbers game. There aren't enough female drivers. It would be a disproportionate fine to find someone good enough to race in F1 and win from a smaller pool of drivers than there are from male drivers.
Yeah, but if you look at...
I'm not saying it won't happen, but it's just more likely to happen.
If you look at the populations of, sporting nations who can beat England at football...
there's many of them.
Yeah, a pool is a pool. But, the next driver's out there, and I think... No one's saying that, the first woman in the modern era to race an F1 car has to be, amazing.
Or black and Jewish, as Bernie would like.
You might have to cut that bit, but he does say that. He's like, I want my, half-blind, one-legged...
No, that was definitely a quote.
No, it was. He was like, I want, unfortunately we don't have any,
And a Muslim.
Half-blind,
he
Muslim,
wanted
black.
all his...
He named every diversity
setting.
setting.
Down to a T. He wanted all his diversity obligations just squished into one person so he could run them and then...
Do you know the only paper he reads is the Daily Express?
That's disgusting and unsurprising.
That's why they get quite a lot of...
Hate mail from Bernie.
It's why they get quite a lot of exclusives, because he's that's his paper.
I neither want to know nor understand why that is. Why he would only read the Daily Express.
No, he's just a working class gas fitter from London, mate. Second
I
hand.
thought he was a car salesman starting out.
Yeah, he was, but before that, he was a gas fitter.
Yeah.
No, F1 motorsport. There is no reason why women shouldn't be as good as men in Formula One on a skill level. It's encouraging women that, because it is a very male-dominated aspect, and who's a fucking woman's influence going to be right now? A pit girl?
No.
That
would put people off, I think.
Yeah, it's like, who am I going to be? I want to be like one of the grid girls who claps and then cheekily gets sprayed with champagne.
I think Carmen Jordan would put a lot of the more competitive female drivers off as well.
Yeah, because then it...
Work your way up and then be the butt of a joke, really.
Yeah, but she is. You just want some... It will cascade. As soon as you get that first person... It's why I think F1 should have made a push to get Danica in a car. Because I think if she'd have gotten a car 10 years ago, she'd have probably done 3 seasons, not made the cut, gone back to America. But I think...
that may have set people back.
No, but then, if you were then a 10-year-old girl who enjoyed karting and saw, a woman driving an F1...
saw it was possible.
Then all of a sudden you don't feel... I mean, I feel kind of...
like an unattainable...
I feel awkward being this, explaining this as a dude, yes, this is how women feel. But it's the kind of social theory behind it, which is what I'm trying to get at.
Yes, disclaimer, this is our opinion and we are very foolish.
Yes.
So if you for whatever reason, you take offence to any of that...
Yes, I got a speeding ticket today because I went on our camera's not going to have... Oh, it did.
Yeah. Bottom line, there's no fundamental reason why we can't have a great female driver.
No, it's about getting people to that, and it's why I don't think that idea of Bernie, it's wrong, because F1,
Bernie's a misogynist.
No, it's not. It's not like that. It's F1 can't financially support itself. Having what you're gonna call it, Formula W. Right. And have Formula W cars in, baby blue and lightning pink go and race.
Well, it can support itself. It's driven by the spending of the bigger teams that have larger financial backing.
I've always thought that to encourage any new talent through, whoever runs an organization, whether it's like F1, CMV, FIA, whoever, should offer breaks to get underrepresented groups in, whether that be, drivers of colour, because Lewis Hamilton is the only person of colour on the grid. There are no women on the grid. There are no Asian drivers on the grid this year. You should be able to maybe give teams, especially in the feeder formulas, a rebate for running one car with... Sorry, my phone's going off mildly on my lap.
So you want to bring in something almost like the Rooney Rule?
Yeah, but I think the Rooney Rule's really badly represented in the UK, because the Rooney Rule isn't about you have to hire someone; it's about getting them in a room.
To clarify for anyone listening, the Rooney Rule is the rule in which
it's an American football rule to start with. Named after Dan Rooney, owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who authored it.
But it also applies now to the Premier League.
No, I didn't pass.
I thought it did.
No, I think it got rejected again. The Rooney Rule's a rule that might be in the Premiership. We've just had an edited 5-minute argument about it. And is definitely in American football. It's written by Pittsburgh Steelers president Dan Rooney. Mm-hmm. And it says for every major position, you have to interview one minority candidate. You haven't got to give them a job. You haven't got to...
But you have to interview them.
And that's what is... And one of... Oh, God, there was a football manager. I can't remember his name.
Chris Ramsey?
I think it was him, actually. Said that he was a big fan of it because he doesn't want a handout. He wants to go and earn his job. But because he was like, I haven't been employed in 3 years. And so
it may have been Chris Hewton.
Might have been Chris Hewton. I think I don't know. It was on the Beeb. We can fact check it. But he, raised the point of I don't want a handout and I don't want, to be a token. I want the trouble I have is getting in that room. And I think give me the chance, get me in that room, and I believe in myself enough that I can prove that I am best for the job, my vision is best for the job, I will do the job best. And it sounds very like, but you'll just interview them and then not hire them. But you'd be amazed the amount of candidates who get hired in American football because of the Rooney Rule. Because it's got them into the room.
Just because they're allowed in.
Because they're allowed in, they've come in and blown the socks off. Everyone who's ever hired anyone knows that you can have someone come in and just dazzle in the room.
Yeah.
I think F1 kind of need... Because once the visor's down, you got no idea what the gender of the person driving is. You got no idea. You look at what position they finish.
Little difference, to be honest.
No, you look at what position they finish, what lap times they do, whether they can overtake. You look at those 3 factors. What the time gender does, unfortunately, really matter in motorsport is getting the helmet on them, getting the visor on them, so it can become blind. And F1, whether it's through kind of saying to all the 12, 13 GP2 teams, we'll give 2 of you, a €500,000 rebate if you run for the entire season, or as much as it's feasible, a female driver.
But having said that, I mean, it's slightly cynical to say, and I don't really mind it, but I would put my money on that if there was a female driver who came in the top 10 of a GP2 championship, she would be in a Formula 1 car the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, this is a weird ethics thing. Ethically, you should, not to get into F1, but you should have quotas of drivers going into junior series. Because this is actually correct ethics. If you can look at something empirically, then you shouldn't use quotas. So if you're trying to pick an F1 driver, you can empirically go, so-and-so has more wins, more points, more fastest laps, and a quicker average time. They are better. X is better than Y. But if you can't, because getting to GP2 is already a mishmash of feeder series and money.
Yeah.
You can't empirically pick the best, so you should have quotas to protect. Anyway, we've gone on a big old social rant here.
Yes. But that's okay because we're kind of winding up.
Yeah. What else is on the...
I know you wanted to talk about IndyCar
on
the Formula 1 podcast, so
yes.
you go ahead.
It's all singles.
And talk about your IndyCar, and I will just go be sick.
It's all single-seaters. IndyCar said it wants to be the new F1, so it's relevant.
What, because it said it wanted to be the new F1?
Yeah, it wants to, because it's like, looks at all these flyaway races being like, I can't pay £40 million a year, and it's going like, we'll come for like
It wants to be a financially bankrupt...
No, it wants the status, like the
hierarchical.
It wants. So IndyCar, a couple of years ago, they had their Car of Tomorrow thing. Oh, shut up! IndyCar's fun. It's going to be the new F1.
If I could look laser beams, I'd be looking laser beams at you right now.
Ah, it's great.
Carry on with your IndyCar gibberish.
Yeah, and as a part of the evolution, they got new aero kits this year.
Right.
And these aero kits...
Do they go right as well as left?
Yeah, because this is for street circuits.
Okay.
Dude, like, less than half of the IndyCar...
I know, I'm winding you up. Carry on.
It's working. But if you look at these, like, aero kits, it is literally like you asked a child to draw a, like, Red Bull style front wing.
So it's a mess?
There are flaps on flaps and slots on slots on slots.
Oh, so it's like something you draw in the back of your maths book.
Yeah, pretty much.
You just keep adding to it because the lesson would never end.
Yeah. But the thing is, to get all of these in, like, the pretty much, again, this is, you could never have a simple rule like this in F1.
Mm-hmm.
The rule is they have to weigh as much as the stock Dallara piece. Isn't that a nice, simple rule?
Yes.
I
enjoy this rule.
Yes, but
it's
because...
measurable, quantifiable.
Yes. But because they're so intricate, they're not very sturdy. And I don't know if you know this, but IndyCar drivers aren't always the best wheel-to-wheel. They get a bit adventurous.
No.
Yeah. And, like, I didn't actually get to see the end of the IndyCar race because it overran so much with cautions, with debris on the track, that they had to cut and start showing, like, basketball.
Little tiny shards of...
No, there was, like, big chunks. If you look at it, they've got these massive chunks on them, and they were just flying off.
Why did they pass up on Delta Wing cars?
That's what I just wanted to talk... IndyCar's got a real problem, by the way. Because the races were so disrupted with cautions. It was literally a series of 5-lap sprints. You know, they got trouble there. Because all the drivers are like, oh, we'll have to try hard not to hit each other. And I'm like, yeah, have fun with that, mate. Your IndyCar, you clatter into everything. It's great. It's like banger cars in F1 had a baby. But no, you look at... Because we spoke last week about the future of F1 and do you want to go retro for the sake of it and just make the cars look like they did in the 80s for fun.
Or just give them a free design book and just call it Ultimate Racing or
yeah,
something
and then,
like that.
Yeah, and then you
people
look
would
at...
die. People would definitely die.
Yeah. But you look at like the Red Bull design for Gran Turismo and you look at the Ferrari concept and you look at like, you know, the future F1 or you think that, oh, should we artificially make cars from like the 80s? And you look at IndyCar, who picked the super conservative option for their car of tomorrow, and have tried to jazz it up, and now just have problems with debris. It hit a fan. A bit of debris went over a fence and hit a fan on the head. And they're having all these trouble. You do think, why didn't you just have a fleet of Delta Wings racing?
Yeah, or people are going to have to start anyway.
Yes. So no, the point being, IndyCar is showing what being conservative in design does when you're trying to define the future. Because they've now tried to jazz it up, got issues. Could have had Delta Wings. That's it. I just wanted to say that because no one will... I try and talk to other people.
It's alright, I've let you go on your rant now.
My rant.
Yes.
It's a rant.
No, it's a rant.
Rant like plant.
Rant like rant.
Rant. It's rant like ant, not rant like plant. Do you ever go outside and be like, oh, there are ants on my picnic?
You know what? I'm tired of you, and I'm calling an end to this podcast. I'm absolutely taking it over.
Yeah. Before we do sign off, I just want to say from both of us, like, best wish. If no one saw at the Nürburgring this weekend, Jan Mardenborough.
Oh yes, the fan that lost his lives.
His Nissan GT took off and landed in the bank with some fans, and sadly,
we have our deepest condolences go out to their loved ones. It's an absolutely horrible thing to happen on what should be a very joyous occasion of going out to see the race.
Especially GT cars around the Nürburgring. But like the rings reacted, they've banned GT cars from there in the short term.
I would like to think with that with that series, that they will look into what caused that, and they will get some regulations under to make sure that doesn't happen again, because that car took off off.
That car absolutely
and it's not the first time a car has taken off in a GT series, and it's certainly
but it's because you saw this week when Marcus Ericsson went off on turn 1, they immediately threw a safety car to bring the crane out, and no one said, you watch it, you were like, that's because of Jules. And it sounds stupid, but you don't think about these safety issues until they happen. You think, it's a 1 in a million chance a car will hit a crane. It's a 1 in a million chance a car will take off and hit
guess
the crowd.
What? People still win the lottery. It still happens.
Yeah, so hopefully...
I know that's a bad analogy, but I was thinking of long odds.
I know. So hopefully,
Anyway, our condolences to them, and
condolences, and
there's not much more to say. Well, a slightly
somber end.
Slightly somber end to the Black Stuff podcast, but we will be back with you after China, I'm certain. So I hope you enjoyed listening. As always, we are Ben Halls, and his mate James McGowan. And if I've offended anyone trying to talk about social issues, then just leave your hate in the comment section. Leave the comment section, because I'm trying to learn. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next time.